Here we're graphing one cycle of a general cosine function. First off, with cosine, we want to keep in mind the regular cosine as a simple graph. It starts at an amplitude. After the period of its normal period 2 pi, it's back to that point. Halfway in between, at pi, it's a negative amplitude. And then halfway in between those spots, pi halves and 3 pi halves, it's at its baseline, which is normally 0. And then it cosine waves in between them. We're going to keep that in mind as we take a look at the other aspects of this graph. First off, the amplitude is the absolute value of the coefficient. So in this case, it's 3 halves. That minus tells us that this graph is going to start not up at amplitude, but it'll be down at amplitude. That's what that minus is going to tell us. But the amplitude itself is 3 halves. The period is the normal period for cosine is 2 pi divided by the coefficient of x, the omega, which is 2. In this case, we get the period is pi. The phase shift is what makes the inside of the cosine function equal to 0. You could just set it equal to 0. Subtracting pi thirds and dividing by 2, we get x is negative pi sixths. Or you could factor the 2 out, which is divides by 2. And then you can see that negative pi 6 would give you the inside equals 0. Either way. So the phase shift is negative pi sixths. And then the vertical shift is the constant term. In this case, it's minus 1/2. All right, this should be everything we need. So normally, it starts 0 and at amplitude. But because of our vertical shift, I'm going to have this value be minus 1/2. Our baseline, instead of at 0, is down at negative 1/2. From there, it would go up and down amplitude, our 3 halves. The phase shift is minus pi sixths. So I'm going to have this be, let's see, how about this 2 over? This is minus pi sixths. So every 2 is going to be a pi sixth unit. So that's my choice for tick marks, pi sixths. I'm looking at the period pi, and that'll be 6 of these. I think this will work out. As I'm thinking about it now, I think pi twelfths might be better, but because I did pi 6 over 2, we'll still be able to get a pi twelfths as well. All of that just happened in my head. I can explain it in a minute, but let's just go with pi sixths. So normally, the cosine starts at 0 up amplitude. So at baseline, up at amplitude. We're going to start at baseline, shifted left pi sixths, down, because of the minus, the amplitude. So from this point, we're going to be down 3 halves, which is 1/2, 2 halves, 3 halves. So we're going to start right here. So 1/2, 1, 3 halves, 2. So because 2 spots is what I'm calling minus 1/2, we have to do 3 more of those. 1, 2, 3. Here's where we're starting. After a period of pi, which will be 6 of these tick marks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I have it exactly there. It's going to be back to that spot. Halfway in between, which is 3 tick marks, it's going to be up at amplitude, which is up 1, 2, 3. There we go. And halfway in between there, here's where we're going to be at the halves. It's going to be at the baseline. Halfway in between 3 is 1.5, baseline. Wow, crazy. And now we can sketch this cosine wave through these points, it almost goes vertical through the baseline points, and it's almost horizontal, but actually the tangent line would be horizontal at the amplitudes. This is one cycle of this cosine wave. I hope this helps.